Why intellectuals are fucking idiots. Lock in.
December 19th, 1978, Malcolm Caldwell, a professor at the University of London, boards a plane to Cambodia for a historic trip. It's an opportunity so rare that Caldwell and his friends hope that it could potentially change the world forever. 3 days later, Caldwell would die in one of the dumbest ways imaginable. And this
Vending machine falls on him.
is why intellectuals are
I never understand how that happens. I feel like 90% of vending machine deaths have to be somebody shaking it. Because when does a vending machine just fall over? But that people die from that every year. 2 to 3 people in the US alone die from accidents involving vending machines. Maybe like unloading them, like if you're a worker and it falls on you.
fucking idiots. Malcolm Caldwell was a consummate intellectual, and as we'll see, he was also a complete and total idiot. He spent his entire life studying Southeast Asian history and economic development.
Well, I think intellectuals, like highly involved academic people, are some of the smartest people you're going to meet, but some of the dumbest people in terms of like everyday life. Because they spend all their time involving themselves within their studies, but they never learn to actually like be a societal person. Like street smarts versus book smarts.
The result, Caldwell became a staunch Marxist. Just to give you an idea, Caldwell visited North Korea in the 1960s, and he came away saying good things about it. So when
What?
communist revolutionaries in the 60s, and he came away saying good things about it.
He went to North Korea and went, yeah, that was actually a pretty good place. What the fuck? He went, oh yeah, no, I had a great time. In the 60s too? I feel like today it's still fucking horrible. One of the worst countries you could live in. But I feel like it's better now than like post fucking Korean War.
So when communist revolutionaries took control of Cambodia in 1974, Caldwell was enthusiastic. The new communist leader of Cambodia was a man by the name of Pol Pot, and he is a radical
Didn't Pol Pot kill like millions of people?
new agenda of how to create a communist utopia. Caldwell believes that Pol Pot could finally be the communist leader that he's been waiting for. But the truth is that Pol Pot is as insane as he is cruel. And at the time, this is obvious to pretty much anyone paying attention. In the 4 years Pol Pot is in power, it's estimated that he is responsible for the death of more than 20% of the entire population.
A fifth of the people that live there died because of him?
But when this news of genocide and atrocities began to leak out to the wider world, Caldwell refuses to believe it. This unwavering
Oh, so he thought that that was like fake news. He thought Pol Pot's this great guy, he's making Cambodia a great country, and just refused to see that he was like a murderous savage.
support eventually earns him an invitation to visit Cambodia by the regime. He accepts. In December of 1978, he boards that fateful plane to Asia. Caldwell
Oh my god, did Pol Pot end up killing him?
spends a few days touring the country. On the last day, he is granted an audience with Pol Pot himself. Now, reportedly, Caldwell was euphoric with excitement and anticipation. Once in private, Caldwell and Pol Pot had a long intellectual conversation.
Oh my god, no. They had a long conversation what Pol Pot shot him?
In his enthusiasm, Caldwell began sharing some of his ideas for Cambodia. And at some point, he likely said something that Pol Pot took to be criticism. Because, well, soon after the conversation ended, Pol Pot had Caldwell killed.
Oh my god.
Now, Malcolm Caldwell
AI? Yeah, you said it.
is what I like to refer to as an intelligent idiot. A man with an encyclopedic breadth of knowledge and understanding, yet absolutely
Well, yeah, you're giving a dictator fucking advice. Like, dictators are generally men that are fully narcissistic, that think that they understand the world in its entirety, and what they say goes, and that's the only way that it should ever be. You shouldn't walk up to that guy and be like, hey, man, I love what you're doing with the place. Maybe stop doing that and do this instead.
absolutely no idea how to use any of it. And that's what this video is about. Intelligent idiots. Because today's world seems to be full of them, and it's Well, it's becoming a problem. Take the recent study that asked 30 behavioral scientists to predict which interventions would motivate people to go to the gym more often. Not only
What interventions would motivate people to go to the gym more? Like what things would motivate people? How do we get people to exercise? Social pressure. I don't know. The feeling, I think it becomes, I wouldn't, well, money, yeah. Money, caffeine, drugs, yeah, you could say like gifts like that. I think like social pressure in the effect that like it's become so normalized to not work out and be morbidly obese. It is very normal to do unhealthy things in the US. And even same thing with like drinking. Like Ninja was talking about this the other day because he doesn't drink anymore. And some people make fun of him for it. But like, you know, coming from somebody that drinks, it's bad. Like we're actively just drinking poison effectively. But like it's normalized. If you are somehow able to incentivize a group of people within a city, like this is how I would run the experiment. There's 100 people. 80 of them are obese. 20 of them are in shape. Pay the 20 to really motivate some of them. And once you get over like a tipping point where like, not even the majority, but say half of the people are in shape and you see all these people around you that are in shape and motivating you to work out as well, you'll probably get into it. But it could also do the reverse and make people feel bad about themselves and then they eat and get worse.
Which interventions would motivate people to go to the gym more often? Not only were these scientists' predictions horribly wrong, but get this, they were worse than random guesses of a person off the street.
What they thought would work was only 8% of interventions tried in the study led to maintaining a measurable change. That's so bad. After a 4-week intervention period, bro, that 8% might just be habit alone. Like that might not even just be the scientists recommending good things. Because if you just get people to work out for 4 weeks, I would say a good percentage of them will just keep working out.
Off the street. Or consider the fact that over 91% of fund managers cannot beat the market, despite the fact that the entire purpose of a hedge fund is to explicitly create better returns than the market. Or an ongoing 20-year study that has consistently found that 90% of professional wine tasters are no better in blind taste tests.
I fucking believe that. Oh my God. What are they called? Sommelier? Sommelier? Fucking some shit. Wine experts. Oh, brother. When I did that wine review, they all taste the fucking same. They all taste the fucking same. A Pinot's a Pinot. Sauvignon Blanc is a Sauvignon Blanc. Cabernet is a Cabernet. There's minute differences, but when I see a fucking sommelier, whatever the fuck you say, however you say it. Whenever they smell that shit, they're like, I'm getting sense of pineapple, rhubarb. Brother, it smells like death. That's what wine smells like. It smells like sulfur. Sulfur and rotting grapes.
Then random chance at identifying more expensive wine. What the hell is going on here? Well, to explain, we need to start in a very strange place. A president, a CEO, and a horribly unsuccessful war. March 28th, 1961, the newly elected president John F. Kennedy appoints the CEO of Ford Motors, Robert McNamara, to become his Secretary of Defense. This is a seismic decision, as McNamara is a completely unconventional choice. A CEO from the private sector with no military background, no Washington connections, a total outsider, and, to boot, the youngest Secretary of Defense in US history. McNamara is also an intellectual. He's a statistician. He's a lover of data and predictive models. And upon confirmation, McNamara's big innovation is that he is going to bring quantitative analysis of manufacturing to the actual battlefield. The US military is about to get a serious—
What, they're gonna become, he elected him the Secretary of Defense so they become more efficient using what, like tanks, planes, cars? I feel like they'll just end up just fucking partnering with Ford though.
Efficiency. Now, a few years later, the US enters the Vietnam War, partly on the basis of McNamara's confidence of his own ability to use data analytics to read the battlefield. He decides to measure everything: armaments, troop counts, casualties, supply chains, and make sure that every decision is based solely on the facts on the ground. And once in the war, his data analysis consistently shows the same result. The US is winning, easily, handily, Year after year, they are committing fewer resources, fewer troops, sustaining fewer casualties, and controlling more land than the enemy. Military victory, McNamara promises, is right around the corner. Or at least, that's what the intellectuals.
Well, he didn't take into account people are people and they'll fight to the fucking gritty end, because that's why we ended up did we lose? Yeah, that's why we ended up pulling out, is because it doesn't matter how many, people you killed on the other side. They're just never going to give up. You either kill all of them or just let them be.
But the years go on and the victory never comes. Because here's what McNamara's data doesn't measure: the North Vietnamese willingness to suffer and die for their country,
Yeah.
the poor morale of the US troops, the corruption of the South Vietnamese government, the shifting political winds at home. The truth is, the US is.
I think you should have had, if you're going to have a Secretary of Defense, him looking at it in an analytical way, in an intellectual way, isn't bad, but you need the other side. Like, you would need, like, a psychologist to, like, look into that and see, and then give the other, because you have to have both ends of the spectrum to understand how a war would work. But you can't just look at it like everybody's computers. It's not chess pieces.
Is losing and has been losing for almost the entire war. And everyone kind of knows it, except McNamara. Intellectuals create models of the world. That's kind of their purpose. That's what makes them intellectuals. In theory, these models reflect and measure reality in a way that allows us to quantify progress and predict the future. The problem is you can't measure everything. It's impossible. And if it turns out that the immeasurable factors are actually more important than what's measurable, well, then like McNamara, you're kind of screwed. But here's another major issue: getting accurate data in the first place. On the surface, data seems really straightforward. You just go out and measure whatever you need to measure. But what if the way you choose to measure something actually changes the results? For example, there's a popular concept in health and nutrition world known as blue zones. You've probably heard of them.
Oh my God, bro. I hear about blue zones all the time, and it's always these fucking gurus that are like, there's an energy vortex. These people are living upwards of 110 years in these areas, and I can tell you right now there's a vortex. No, it's not a vortex. They're fucking healthy people. It's not fully understandable why they live that long, but there's not an energy vortex. There's just areas where they're pretty wealthy, they eat good food, they work out, they fucking take care of themselves, and they're good.
The blue zone.
Places around the world
where people live extremely long lives.
Yeah, where are they, actually? Yeah, there's only one in the U.S. Italy, Greece, Japan, and Costa Rica. I didn't know about the one in Costa Rica.
Around the world
where people live extremely long lives.
Is there anything scientifically different about these blue zones?
Blue zones don't exist? No, they do. But it's not like an energy vortex. There's areas in the world where people live way longer than everybody else. We will all die before people in the blue zones die.
The blue zones eat lemons. We can blue zone our own house if we want to.
Blue zones are communities around the world that produce a higher amount of 100-year-olds. People have suggested that we should study these blue zones to figure out how they live longer. And as a result, the blue zone model of health has become incredibly popular over the past 20 years, spawning best-selling books, a multi-million-dollar business, and a Netflix documentary. Not to mention hundreds of YouTube videos.
Here's to the beginning of our blue zone adventure.
And this is great. Except it wasn't. See, it turns out that upon closer inspection, a lot of the data behind the blue zones is, well, bad.
No! They don't live longer? Oh my God, clerical errors and pension fraud, it's dead people they're still getting money for? No fucking way. So blue zones are fake.
Blue zones is, well, bad. For example, each of the blue zones happen to be in places where birth certificates were either adopted oddly late or were largely destroyed in a war. All of the blue zones involve countries that were at war in the mid-20th century and had drafts with upper age limits, giving young people incentives to lie about their age. 2 of the 5 blue zones had major pension law changes that gave older people more money, another incentive to lie.
Oh my God, so they're just 80-year-olds that are on paper 100.
About one's age. And most interestingly, while the blue zones are overrepresented in 100-year-olds, they are underrepresented in 90-year-olds. Interesting. The point here is that the Blue Zone model of health and longevity isn't necessarily a bad model. The problem is that it's built on top of bad data. Therefore, it's not accurately reflecting reality. Yet, of course, nobody thinks about that. Netflix definitely didn't. But here's the real problem. Intellectuals forget that models are just models. Instead, they come to believe that their models are reality, and the consequences can be disastrous. Malcolm Caldwell spent 20 years studying Southeast Asian history and development.
Yeah, just to die from his hero.
He created a model of understanding that part of the world that was largely Marxist. Then, when he actually went to Southeast Asia and met an actual Marxist and tried to tell that Marxist all about his model, it didn't end so well. When an intellectual model and reality collide, reality always wins. Yet, when their models are contradicted by reality, most intellectuals do not side with reality. On the contrary, most intellectuals will double down on their models, and this is what makes them idiots.
I wouldn't even say idiots, but I think it's more like you can't give up your life's work, you know? Like if you're Caldwell and you could tell him like, hey, dude, that's just wrong in practice, and he worked on it for 15 years, he's not going to fucking just give up. Like, you're always going to back your method. They did the same thing in, like, astronomy. When some guys' models were, like, getting, like, a little faulty and, like, proven wrong, they just double down. No, that's not true. Like, even the church denied that Earth wasn't the center of the universe for a while and then gave in. And then it was like, okay, yeah, we have to. That's just like human struggle in general, though. I don't think that's definitively pinned on anybody. I think that's just like it's hard to break your spirit and your current belief. That's in anything, too. So it's just more prevalent because that's what they make their whole life about, is the fact that they're an intellectual, so they just seem fucking stupid and annoying. But it's like, if you believe something, it's a lot harder for me to change that belief than strengthen it. Like, if you believe in God or you're conservative or liberal, I could, like, dick ride your belief and strengthen it twofold easier than I could get you to give up. Yeah, somebody, flat earthers. Yeah, flat earthers. You could, that's the thing. Like, when you watch those flat earthers do experiments to prove the earth is flat, and then they just prove the earth is round in the process, they don't give up. They just double down. And they go, oh, no, it must be a fluke.
In 1968, the biologist Paul Ehrlich began his book, The Population Bomb, with the following sentence. The battle to feed all of humanity is over. In the 1970s, hundreds of millions of people will starve to death. At this late date, nothing can prevent a substantial increase in the world death rate. In the book, Ehrlich builds a case that the world is overpopulated and we would soon experience catastrophic social, economic, and environmental collapse.
Now, the world's overpopulated, but there are like people that think the world will explode in population as it did from the 1940s to today. It's going to slow down. How many people are on our Earth right now, chat? Like 9 billion? 8 billion? I think it's 8 billion. 8.2 billion. The number will cap out around like 10 or 11 because population won't spike in the way that it is. Birth rates are declining. If anything, we're going to flatten out around like 9 or 10 billion. And then it's just probably going to go like up, down, up, down, up, down. People don't have kids anymore. So like, we're not going to have a massive like dying crisis where people are just like aren't sustained by food. People just stop having kids. In bad economic situations, a lot of the time, it depends by country as well. Because a lot of the countries that are growing are also poorer countries. But like richer countries that are in bad economic situations have kids less. And people just don't want to fuck anymore. Like South Korea, the United States, we all have like below average birth rates. China, Japan. Japan's really bad. Japan is like all old people. Why? Nobody wants to have kids anymore. I don't know. I mean, there's a variety of reasons, but our birth rate's lower than it needs to be. To maintain a population, you have to have 2.1 kids per person. So I would have to have 2.1 children. The 0.1 is an average that accounts for the fact that there's going to be people that die before they have kids. And that's to just keep it even. Because then you have 2 parents for 2 kids. And when you die, you've replaced yourself. To increase a population, you have to have 3 kids per person or more. And most countries have like 1.6 birth rate by country. It's really high in some areas. The highest place right now is Chad, 5.94. The average woman is having almost 6 kids. Where is the worst? I think it's South Korea. Oh, no, it's not. It's Macau, which is in China. 0.69. Hong Kong, China's 0.74. South Korea's 0.75. So the average woman in South Korea isn't even having a kid. Like, not one kid.
That all marine life would die by 1980. That over 1 billion people would die due to famine by 1990. And that England would no longer exist by the year 2000.
We're very close to a worldwide plague that could kill virtually everybody.
The book was a massive hit, and it inspired political and social movements across the world.
There's too many people, and we'd like to see people have fewer children and better ones.
Ehrlich became an internationally celebrated thought leader and luminary.
There's too many children. We'd like there to be stop having sex and have good kids. Your kids are bums.
To get the death rate and
Better kids.
birth rate in balance, and there's only 2.
I think it's just parenting. I think, I'm not judging, but I think there is truth to the fact that the more kids you have, the less good of a parent you can be individually to those kids. Because your time gets thinned. If you have 2 kids, if you have 1 kid, all your time gets devoted to them. And then you could have half and half for 2 kids. Once you're at like 21 kids and counting, your kids are raising your kids. You're never gonna have quality time. Like that idea of a family of like over 10 or 15 children, like you're just not talking to some of your kids for like days. They just exist. And even though they're like 7 or 8 years old, it doesn't matter. Like they're just you have too many people to raise.
Ways to do it. One is to bring the birth rate down. The other is to push the death rate up.
He was featured in newspapers and appeared on television all over the world. He was achieving what every intellectual hopes to achieve: real impact. Except that he was completely and utterly wrong about everything. But Ehrlich didn't let that stop him. In 1990, he doubled down with another book. In 2004, he stated in an interview that his only mistake in his first book was that his predictions were too optimistic. In 2008, he argued that governments should not allow people to have more than 2 children. Even last year, in 2024, he was interviewed on 60 Minutes, one of the most prestigious news programs in the United States. Ehrlich is the...
He did not say that. I was going to say, I stay winning, no L's, just big brain energy. IQ on Giga Chad mode, never been caught lacking in the thinking department.
Ehrlich is the poster child for an intellectual idiot. Here you have a guy, super educated, professor at Stanford, spends decades thinking about sustainability, and he comes up with a model.
And all of his predictions are just wrong.
The model makes some catastrophic predictions. He is then rewarded for the model. He's told he's a genius. He's a visionary. Oh my God, he's saving the planet and humanity and the baby seals. Oh my God, the baby seals. He gets paid for this model. He wins awards for this model. He becomes world famous for this model. But reality eventually makes a fool of every model. And the intellectuals who cling to their models in the face of reality become idiots. Idiots don't update their views about the world when new information comes out. Idiots try to
Yeah, get it done, brother. Yeah, get it over here. Gotta get down on it.
Idiots try to shut down.
Fucking asshat, dude. Oh my God. Brother. Being a part of the KKK, are you fucking kidding me?
Idiots will look at something plain and obvious and claim that it's actually really complicated, you see? Because if you factor the binomial of the quantum rate of the social construct and divide by 0, you'll discover, just like Plato once said, that what is right if only what is right is left, and what's left is alleviates the burden of the proletariat to the liberation of all peoples, even under God, whatever and ever. Amen. Look, the world is a scary and unpredictable place. It is human nature to...
Well, I think there has to be a balance, too. Just intellectually, like he mentioned Plato. A lot of those philosophers drive themselves fucking crazy. Because you're never... I think there's like an even balance with philosophy and life. And a lot of you guys, because I got a philosophy degree, are like, hey, Joe, I'm worried about death. I'm worried about this. You can't like dwell on one topic too long, regardless of what it is, philosophically, intellectually, because it's going to fucking eat you alive, because you're never going to be able to fully understand it, whether it's with intellectual, predictions involved with communism and Pol Pot, or like religious predictions, world predictions, when you're gonna die, what the meaning of life is. Like, you have to have a balance in your life of like living in the simulation and then being an intellectual and taking a step back and analyzing it. Because if all you do is analyze, you never live, and then you actually are always wrong in your analytics because you can't analyze anything. You need to live. I think just living's bad. I think just analyzing's bad. I think you need a mixture of the both.
Crave some model to give it some sense of predictability. But the real problem is that our models of reality also give us an identity and a sense of belonging. I mean, look at these fucking nitwits. Do you think this is really about climate change? No, these are empty, angry human beings, desperate for—
needing some sort of purpose. I think being a part of climate change and doing things to actually show good is better than just like walking up to a bunch of art museums and covering them in paint and being like, the walruses are dying. Go raise money for fucking animal conservation, you fucking idiot. Like, dude, those people piss me off so much. I think climate change is an actual fucking issue. I do streams for WWF. I actively care about that stuff. You can live that life and also be a sane human. They envelop every single aspect of their being into one specific thing that they care about, and then it's like, nothing else matters.
For their lives to mean something in the face of the void. And their apocalyptic climate change model has done—
What is this doing? Like, this is just being a hindrance. You could argue this actually makes the climate worse for the things that are going to need to be done to clean this up, and the waste of materials that are needed to fix the fact that you're now spray painting a building orange.
That for them. But we all have to be careful, because the fact that our models give our lives a sense of meaning means that all of us are—
And it makes people hate you. Like, it's the same thing with like that. I would say that vegan teacher. There's so many vegans that are so good at like making you want to be vegan. But if you like sit there and hound people, they're never going to change. One of the biggest things about changing somebody's perspective is getting them to arrive at your opinion on their own. Question them and give them that sense of like, I arrived at this myself. I'm smart. This is my discovery. And they'll agree with you. When I sit here and I argue with some of you guys about certain perspectives, I'm not trying to change your opinion. I just want to say, I think you're fucking wrong, and here's why. If I actually wanted to change somebody's opinion, I would sit here and I would question you to a way that I would get you to arrive at that opinion. And I've done that on stream sometimes, where I try to change people's perspectives by giving my own insight in a way that doesn't come off as brutish or attacking, right? And that's how you actually get people to change what they think. If you want people to care about climate change, don't sit there and fucking spray paint buildings orange and be like, you don't care about the animals. The sea's dying, right? That matters, but the way that you're doing it is wrong.
Susceptible to becoming idiots if we're not careful. And this is how we prevent that.
How to not be an idiot.
You get a lot of information from the internet. That's great, because you can be conscious of what you're consuming and choose whether to learn more about a topic or not. But the fact that you are choosing which models to adopt and believe in for yourself means that you are an intellectual now. And as an intellectual, you are never far from turning into an idiot. All this—
Yeah, you need to look at shit that you don't like. You need to have disagreements. I think that's one of the biggest downsides and upsides of social media as well, is it gives you communities where people can feel a part of something, but it also segments you out of actual reality, where you're going to have to live with people that just don't like you.
Alternative media, if I can call it that, has a kind of paradox to it. On the one hand, it is great at exposing the disconnect between the intellectual elite and the actual on-the-ground reality of millions of people. Idiots like Malcolm Caldwell can now be spotted a mile away on Twitter before they even have a chance to get shot in the face by a communist. But there is something more subtle happening as well, and it concerns me deeply. On the internet, the models of the world that travel the furthest are not the most accurate, but the most attention-grabbing.
Become less intelligent.
Woke past one.
It's the news too. If you're good at clickbait and good at marketing, your opinion is seen as more valuable. Marketing is effectively what makes or breaks success of, I would say, most people. And yourself. I'm not the most entertaining influencer in the world by far. I have more viewers than people that are more entertaining than me. I market myself better than them. That's like, it's the same thing. I always say there's people that are really entertaining. There's people that can be the best Twitch streamers. They're not good at marketing. It's the same thing with like opinions and politics and news stations where they push stories that are going to get the most clicks rather than the ones that actually matter. Not to say that they never show things that matter. It's more so just like you're always going to see an individual bias overblown opinion, because if they say it just bland and generic, you're not going to watch it. That's why like all TikTok news stations, like that one British guy, I love him, but he always goes, "This is fucking crazy." He doesn't sound like that. That's more like Jason Statham. "This is fucking wild. This is world ending." And that, like, you always have to start with an extreme because that's marketing.
They are the models that appeal most strongly to our base instincts, prejudices, and emotional needs. And by and large, these attention-grabbing models of the world are inaccurate at best and actively destructive at worst. And because we're spending more time on our devices, removed from the real world, we are less likely to suffer the consequences that a faulty model will give us.
By doing what the world has told them to do.
Put another way,
I think a big thing is personal experience as well. I think a lot of people are very quick, and even myself at times, I'm not saying I don't do this. Not even just quick to judge, quick to form an opinion about something that you have no experience in, and then when you actually do experience that specific thing, your opinion is literally the exact opposite or drastically changed. And I can't give exact examples because that's like one of those situations where, like, I know it happens, but I can't think of anything on the top of my head. But there's so many times where I might think about something or disagree with somebody or judge someone, and then you have firsthand experience with it, and you go, maybe that is actually, like, I was wrong. And you have to, like, own up to that in your own brain.
The less time we spend in the real world, the less of a cost we experience for being detached from it. And you and I and everyone must go through pains to remember this all the time. This is not reality. This is a cheap 2D rendition of reality, a funhouse mirror of reality. It is a cheap imitation and temporary substitute for reality. So what does that mean? That means less time on this stupid device and more time out in the world. That means meet more people face to face, talk to them, connect with them, disagree with them, care about them. The more emotionally satiated you are with the relationships in your life, the less.
It also makes you way happier. You're going to be a more entertaining person. You're going to experience more. The worst thing is talking to people that are boring. And a lot of people, I've had chatters go like, "Oh, people say I'm boring or whatever." Not in a while, but I feel like I got a dono like that one time ago. If you're boring, it's not you. It's the fact that you don't fucking do anything. Go do stuff. Go live a life. Go live a life, you know? I never understand. If you're boring, it's not a personality flaw. You just don't do anything. Go do stuff. And then you won't be boring. I don't want to. Well, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to go do shit. I have social anxiety. I understand you might have social anxiety. I've had social anxiety. I have friends that have diagnosable anxiety and are very introverted, and they put themselves out there. I have one, I'm not going to say his name, but him and his girlfriend, very introverted. I have known him for years, 4 or 5 years. He, in the past 6 months, has started hanging out with us and going to do things and stuff. And I love it, dude. I love seeing an introverted person, like, get out of their shell and go have fun. Because you could see that they're, like, worried at first and it's bothering them. And, you know, there's times where they might have to step away or leave. And that's fine. But, like, take it in doses, you know? Still push yourself to a point, not where you're extremely uncomfortable, but in small amounts where you're able to experience life in a way that is still maybe stepping outside of your box, but not jumping out of it, you know? Microdose, and then over time, you'll get more used to it. You'll get happier around it. You'll look forward to it. It's the same thing with, like, public speaking. People are so nervous about giving presentations. I still get nervous about public speaking. The more you do it, the better it is, the easier it is. Humans get really good at, I guess, cyclical things, like the rut, right? Something might be uncomfortable at first, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. Always.
Unless you will need to rely on some bullshit intellectual model to emotionally satisfy you. And then, with the emotional sustenance of real-world relationships supporting you, approach the models of the world with a healthy dose of skepticism. All models are wrong, but some can be useful. If a model is useful, use it. But the moment it's not, abandon it and move on.
I loved that video, chat. Like, that was cinema. I gotta go piss real quick, then we're gonna hop into the next one.